My wife gave our son a different name on the birth certificate, her ex's name. When I confronted her, she said, "Yeah, he's not even yours. What are you going to do? Divorce me? This is a no-fault state. I'll take half, loser." I didn't say a word. I just got a DNA test, hired a lawyer, and started packing. 3 months later, she was outside my building, sobbing, homeless, and begging. I'm still processing how one piece of paper changed everything. It's only been 5 days since my son was born. My wife Vanessa, 31 years old, was discharged yesterday, and I was reviewing the hospital paperwork, birth certificate, insurance forms, the usual. That's when I saw it. The name on the birth certificate. Not James Taylor like we had agreed. Instead, it said Alexander Reynolds Taylor. Alexander. The name hit me like a truck. That was her ex's name. "Vanessa, what is this?" I asked, walking into the bedroom where she was resting with the baby. "The birth certificate says Alexander, not James." She looked up, then back at her phone. "Oh, yeah. I changed my mind at the last minute. Alexander sounds better. Alexander, like your ex." Something in her face shifted. A cold calculation replaced the exhaustion of new motherhood. "I'm surprised you noticed so fast," she said with a small, ugly laugh. "Why would you name our son after your ex?" "Because he's not our son. Mark is Alex's son." The room tilted. "What? You heard me. The baby isn't yours. Alex and I have been seeing each other for about a year." I stared at her, blood rushing in my ears. "What are you going to do about it? Divorce me?" She laughed coldly. "This is a no-fault state. I get half of everything anyway. The house, your savings, plus child support." She turned back to her phone. "Stay and play daddy, or leave and pay. Either way, I win." I didn't say a word. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just turned and walked out of the room. My first call was to a DNA testing facility. They could see me the next day. My second call was to a law firm that specialized in divorce cases. The receptionist heard the urgency in my voice and squeezed me in for a consultation that same afternoon. Jessica Winters was exactly what I needed: experienced, direct, and strategically minded. "No-fault divorce doesn't mean what your wife thinks it means," she explained after hearing my situation. "It just means you don't need to prove wrongdoing to get divorced. It doesn't guarantee her half your assets, especially with evidence of fraud. Paternity fraud. Putting you on the birth certificate of another man's child. That's fraud. Her admission about taking half your assets shows intent. We can work with that." Jessica outlined a plan: get the DNA test, gather financial records, especially proof of assets I had before the marriage, secure valuable and irreplaceable items, and find new housing. Most importantly, do not tip my hand. Let her think she's winning, Jessica advised. The more complacent she is, the better. 3 days later, the DNA test confirmed what I already knew. The baby wasn't mine. I spent the next week securing my most important documents and possessions in a storage unit, researching apartments, and meticulously documenting our finances. Our house was bought mostly with money from my software business, which I sold before we got married. Jessica confirmed that would be critical. She advised me to gather all documentation showing the source of the down payment and mortgage payments. 1 week later, while Vanessa was at her postnatal checkup with her mother, I executed the plan. The movers arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. I didn't linger. They efficiently packed up my premarital furniture and personal belongings. By 11 a.m., they were gone. I had my name removed from all utilities. I left the divorce papers on the dining table with a note, all communication through my attorney. And I drove to my new apartment. The feeling of calm was surreal, not the reaction she was expecting, I'm sure. 72 hours later, well, it's been a journey. Thanks for the comments and direct messages. It's good to know I'm not completely crazy for reacting the way I did. 72 hours refers to the time I'm writing this. The main confrontation happened Wednesday afternoon, the same day I discovered the birth certificate. Vanessa returned home from her appointment around 2 p.m., according to our neighbor Ted, who texted me. There was a lot of shouting about 15 minutes later. Then the bombardment began, 21 missed calls, 31 text messages. They're all blocked. I read a few before blocking her. What the hell did you do? You can't just leave like this. This isn't how we're supposed to handle this. You were supposed to stay and support us, or pay from afar. Not fight. You'll regret this. She also started sending emails. Those were filtered into a special folder that Jessica advised me to create. Don't delete anything. Don't respond. Document everything. The panic in her messages was clear. She hadn't expected me to discover the paternity so quickly. She hadn't expected me to leave immediately. And she definitely hadn't expected me to fight back legally. Her plan was falling apart because I wasn't following the script she had written for me. By evening, she had called in reinforcements. Her mother called, also blocked, but left voicemails. Mark, this is Sandra. Vanessa is distressed. You need to come home right now and discuss this like adults. This isn't how things are supposed to go. You have responsibilities. Responsibilities? To a child that isn't mine. To a woman who deliberately cheated on me. The sheer audacity. Vanessa must have realized I was serious. By the second day, she finally contacted Jessica, first with threats. Tell your client this isn't what we discussed. He can leave if he wants, but he still needs to support us. Otherwise, I'll take him for everything. Jessica's response was perfect. My client never discussed any arrangement regarding a child that is not his. We have DNA confirmation and documentation of your client's admission to paternity fraud. We'll see you at the preliminary hearing. That changed the tone quickly. By yesterday, Vanessa was begging to know where I was staying, claiming she just needed to talk. When that didn't work, she sent her sister Diane to my office. Diane cornered me in the parking lot. Mark, you need to go home. Vanessa made a mistake, a horrible mistake, but this isn't how things were supposed to go. You were supposed to leave amicably and support them. Not fight her legally. He's not my child, Diane. He's not my problem, I finally said, understanding the full picture. That doesn't matter, she told me. She said she'd release you from the real responsibilities of parenthood. She just needs your financial support. She can't do this alone. So that was the plan. Either I stayed and raised another man's child, or I left but still paid for everything. So why even tell me the truth? Because she thought you'd be reasonable. She thought you'd understand the situation and do the right thing. The right thing being, continue funding her lifestyle while she raised her lover's son. The arrogance was astounding. Please leave before I call security, I said. Cold bastard, she spat. After everything Vanessa has done for you. Done for me? Like cheating for a year and trying to pass off another man's child as mine. Jessica filed for an expedited hearing based on the paternity fraud, though she warned it could still take 6 to 8 weeks to get a court date. We're pushing for Vanessa to cover all legal fees due to her demonstrated bad faith. The kicker came this morning, a text message from an unknown number, but clearly Vanessa using someone else's phone. Alex wants nothing to do with us. He blocked me. You can't just abandon us like this. We need you. Her backup plan failed, and now she's desperate. I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. 6 weeks later, the preliminary hearing finally happened last week. The judicial system moves at its own pace, even with expedited requests. Vanessa showed up looking exhausted, the baby in a carrier, a blatant sympathy ploy that the judge completely ignored. Her attorney seemed unprepared for the evidence. Jessica presented the DNA test, documentation of Vanessa's admission, and a financial breakdown showing that 80% of our home was purchased with my premarital assets. The judge was unimpressed with Vanessa, especially after Jessica played a voicemail that Vanessa had left for my brother, not knowing we weren't close. Tell Mark he's making a big mistake. I'm going to drag this out until his lawyer bills bankrupt him. He'll regret this. That's when the judge ordered a freeze on marital assets and scheduled an expedited final hearing in 45 days. He also ordered Vanessa to provide a full accounting of all expenses since our separation and to vacate my home office, where I kept equipment for my consulting business. Though this is a no-fault state, the judge declared, the court does not look kindly upon attempts to manipulate the legal system through fraud or bad faith actions. Outside the courtroom, Vanessa tried to approach me, baby in arms. Mark, please. You know me. We can work this out. I kept walking. All communication through counsel, Jessica reminded her. You'll regret this. Vanessa shouted after us. This isn't just about you and me. This is a child. A child whose real father you should be contacting. Jessica replied without breaking stride. Over the next week, things escalated. Vanessa was ordered to return my work equipment but claimed that something had been damaged in an accident. She also emptied our joint checking account, $3,800, which Jessica immediately reported to the court as a violation of the asset freeze. The judge ordered her to reimburse it or face contempt charges. Then last week, she somehow got my new address, probably through a mutual friend who thought they were helping, and showed up pounding on the door, the baby crying in her arms. Open the door, Mark. You can't hide from your responsibilities. We need to talk. I didn't open the door. I just called building security while recording her through the peephole. Jessica filed for a protective order based on harassment, including the recording, the police report from the security team, and the documented pattern of escalating behavior. The judge granted a temporary order pending a full hearing. In the meantime, I've been rebuilding, reconnecting with friends Vanessa had subtly pushed away, sleeping better than I have in months. There's a strange sense of release in seeing someone's true nature so clearly. Update, 3 to 4 months later. The legal process dragged on longer than I expected, but we finally had our day in court. The judge was clearly irritated by Vanessa's ongoing games, missed financial disclosure deadlines, lost documents, yet another attempt to contact me despite the protective order. He was thorough in his review. It wrapped up in less than 3 hours. The result, the house was to be sold, with 80% of the proceeds going to me, reflecting my larger initial contribution and documentation of premarital funds. My retirement accounts remained solely mine. All property purchased before the marriage was returned to the original owner. Vanessa was ordered to pay $8,000 of my legal fees due to her pattern of bad faith actions, roughly half of my total costs. I was legally declared not the father, with no support obligations. The court ordered the birth certificate to be amended. Vanessa broke down when the judge ruled on paternity. But Your Honor, he's the only father this child has. Alexander is not, the judge replied. He also recommended that Vanessa pursue a paternity action against Alexander through family court, noting that the child was entitled to support from his biological father regardless of Alexander's marital status. Your personal arrangement with Mr. Reynolds is not the court's concern, the judge told her. The child has rights independent of your relationship status. The house sold within 3 weeks in a hot market. I kept my job, my savings, and most of my sanity. Through mutual friends, I heard that Vanessa had to move in with her parents in a small town 50 miles away, making it impossible to cover her former sales territory. She eventually took a retail job nearby with significantly lower pay. The arrogance is still there, though. Last week, she emailed me, Mark got everything he wanted. The least he could do is help me with a down payment for a condo. After 4 years of marriage, I deserve something. Jessica's response, the court has made its determination. Please review the terms of the restraining order before attempting further contact. Final update, 6 months later. Life has a strange way of coming full circle. Yesterday I was leaving my building to meet a friend for dinner when I saw her, Vanessa sitting on a bench across the street, the baby in a stroller beside her. When she saw me, she stood up, hesitated, then crossed over. She looked different, thinner, hair pulled back, dressed simply in jeans and a plain sweater instead of her usual designer clothes. Please, she said as I stopped. Just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I nodded. I lost my job last month, she said without preamble. My parents are selling their house and moving to Florida. I don't have anywhere to go. I said nothing. I just waited. Alex still won't acknowledge the baby. He won't even get a DNA test. He says his wife would leave him. Her voice cracked. I've applied for emergency housing, but there's a waiting list. I'm sleeping in my car some nights. What do you want from me, Vanessa? Her eyes filled with tears. Help. Just, help. Maybe you know someone who needs an assistant or has a room to rent. I'm not asking to come back. I know that's impossible, but Alexander stirred in the stroller, and she automatically rocked it, calming him. There was a time when this would have shattered me. But I felt surprisingly calm. Almost distant. Vanessa, you arrogant piece of shit, I said as I turned and walked away. The revenge wasn't in the legal victory or in keeping my assets. The real revenge was in this moment, being able to stand in front of the woman who had tried to destroy me, who had laughed at the idea that I would fight back, and feel nothing but distant calm. She had expected me to be a doormat, to accept her betrayal or to fund her new life. Instead, I had quietly and methodically dismantled her plans and rebuilt my life on my terms. I had proven her wrong in the most fundamental way. I wasn't a loser. I was a man who knew his worth and refused to be manipulated. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't some elaborate scheme. It's simply refusing to be a victim, and letting the natural consequences unfold. The life she tried to steal from me is gone. The life I've built in its place is entirely mine.